The dominant routines of our culture are so strong, and you just drive around and there are the auto dealerships and the fast food restaurants and the billboards, you know, and it's just barraging from every side. And even though, like, in theory, you know that there's a lot of people that are thinking the same thoughts. In theory, maybe you know that, but this message is coming from all over the place that says that you're alone, that you're kind of crazy maybe, you know, like you're the odd one out, and everybody else is behaving as if this were totally normal. So what's wrong with you? You know, we're social animals. And so here there's this like silent protest. Meanwhile, you know, here I am, I'm driving my car too. There's probably in the next car someone's like, yep, there's another normal person who's adhering to all of the routines and behaviors that imply that this is all fine. So I think that there might be a lot more lonely people, lonely in this feeling that, you know, this can't be right. It's not supposed to be like this. A lot more than we think. And I think it's really good to gather together so that we know we're not crazy. Like if we lived in Portland, Oregon, you know, maybe like it wouldn't feel so lonely, you know, when the debate is not like whether to implement, you know, city composting or recycling. Everybody believes that. You know, the debate is, should we even have trash collection? Or should everybody, you know, be required to not use any packaging, you know, and to compost everything? Like, should we even have it? That's a controversy in Portland, Oregon, but here, if you have thoughts like that, you feel very alone. And so it's good, and I think that's why I was happy that we started late, just so people have a chance to connect. And if anything else happens tonight, I'd very much like, you know, for people to make some connections. Because when, at least for me, I can't hold it myself. You know what I mean? I can't, like, I'm not strong enough to act consistently from what I know. I don't have the faith. I need other people to kind of hold me in that knowing. And the knowing of what? Maybe I'll go into that a bit. I mean, the kind of negative side of it is the knowing that it's not supposed to be this way, that a more beautiful world is possible. On the positive side, it's knowing things like the small, invisible actions that I take are significant. They matter. Because here, it often seems like a drop in the bucket. You know, like, I don't know, maybe like, you have a friend going through something difficult, and you want to hold that friend in knowing that this is happening for this hard thing is your medicine. It's not just this random thing that's victimizing you, but it's something that mirrors something in yourself, and that it's happening for your evolution, and that the choices you're making right now will ripple out into the universe, even if you can't see how. That momentary choice of maybe not going into anger, but of going into forgiveness or something like that. You know, to hold someone in that knowledge, like that's something I want to be able to stand in all the time. But it's hard for me to do that without some kind of community. And so sometimes I go traveling, you know, and I just feel like so uplifted and so clear, you know, and I go somewhere where the environment supports me. And I go, you know, and people treat me like a VIP, you know, and there's all these progressive things happening there, and the physical landscape is beautiful, and there's gardens, you know, and it's just like this it affirms me, and it says, yeah, this is how life could be. And then so like I just have access to the field, you know. I'm like, it's like I've become temporarily enlightened. Then I come back here, And it's kind of like wading through molasses, where it takes me a week to have the insight that I have instantaneously somewhere else. And I guess this is probably a common experience, even if you're not traveling. You probably have moments in your life where you're shown, where like it's all becomes clear. You know, it all becomes obvious. Or maybe it's you go to some kind of event or you read a book, you know, that is really uplifting and it lays out, yeah, you know, it's all about love. And then, and you'd like to be able to stay in that place. So we all have these experiences. We're temporarily lifted into an experience of who we really are, you know, and of like a larger perception of the world. And then, but we can't stay there alone. So I think it's really important, like maybe there's something changing now, that gatherings like this are beginning to happen, and spaces like this are cropping up in Harrisburg. And we've had a few outposts, you know, Midtown Scholar, you know, places like that. But I'm sensing, I don't know, like, it'd be interesting to kind of connect with people about this. Lately, just in the last week or two, it feels like there's some kind of change in the air. It can seem so hopeless here. You know, if there's anywhere in America where we're mired in the old story, it's Harrisburg. It's really strong here. It's a very wounded place. And sometimes I look at like, okay, what's it going to take to change in this place? What's it going to take to you know, I don't know, whether the state government, you know, the police, you know, like what's it going to take? The medical establishment, you know, the educational establishment, the teachers at a school that my kids went to who are just, you know, talking about behavior management and the most important thing is discipline and obedience, you know, and they have a lifelong conviction in this. And the whole system is set up that way. So that if you're a teacher and you don't go along with that, you get squeezed out and you get burned out. And like these systems that seem so frozen in place and everybody playing the roles in those systems and so deeply invested in it, you know, it's like, what's it going to take to change? It seems hopeless. There's nothing, and we all, like we have these experiences, like, you know, like there you are at Thanksgiving, you know, and it's your uncle who's a Tea Party conservative, you know, or some other person who just doesn't get it. And what's it going to take to change this person? And maybe you try to argue with them, to debate them, whatever. Or maybe you try, you know, like compassionate listening or holding space, and that doesn't work either, and they're just stuck. Well, I've been having experiences that have been giving me hope. A friend of mine, I've known him for years. He, in like 7 years of knowing him, he did not a single time reveal genuine emotion. Always, you know, kind of military veteran, always either like kind of angry or disparaging or cynical or kind of, you know, slightly amused, but nothing's affecting me, you know. Very cynical about other people. But now he's going through like basically a marital breakup. And he came to me the other day, and in 10 minutes, he shared more of his authentic self than he had in 7 years put together. And we had more eye contact in those 10 minutes than the aggregate of the last 7 years. And he's just breaking open, just cracking wide open, having a spiritual experience. I mean, spiritual would be a word that he would have been incapable of even uttering without an attitude, you know? And I'm like, wow, if it can happen to him, it can happen to everybody. And what does it take to happen? It takes a breakdown. Like his marriage is breaking down. It takes reality falling apart, you know? Reality is falling apart for him. And I think that that's happening for a lot of people now. Either because I don't know, it could happen through a relationship problem or employment, losing your job, or physical illness, where everything that was so real, so permanent, so secure, is revealed as just an illusion. And it falls apart, and you're like almost dizzy. What's real? Who am I? It doesn't make sense anymore. And that's kind of what it takes, I think. And this isn't something, it's not something that we can bring upon another person. It's a process that's happening by itself. And so when my friend arrived at my doorstep in this place, I just felt so grateful. It wasn't anything that I did to him, He wasn't somebody I can fix. But that transformation is really a gift. So that's kind of what's on my mind. And I don't know like how familiar people are with my writing or why you're here. So I'm a little hesitant to talk about the usual stuff. Usually, I don't know about usually, I mean my talks are different every time, but often I'll talk about what exactly is this transition that we're going through. What does it mean on a personal level? What does it mean on a societal level? Is there hope? And how do we become effective agents of change? But I think I'd like to just maybe solicit 5 reasons why people are here, so I kind of know who I'm talking to, and yeah. So yeah, give me 5 reasons, questions, things. Yeah.
I saw your Sacred Economics video on Films for Action.
Yeah.
I shared it with a bunch of my friends, half of which kind of just disregarded it, but the ones that watched it and were inspired by it are here with me tonight, these guys here. Cool. And I want to read your book, but I have yet to be able to get it.
Sacred Economics?
Yeah, that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up thinking that, my teachers were telling me what was right, and you played fair, you didn't cheat, and you did things by the book, and come to realize, that's not the way it is at all. I just feel like everybody's out to rip you off, and the whole system is just, it's chaotic, and it's cutthroating, and I'm here because I'm like you. I want, that's not the way it should be.
Yeah.
It needs to change.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah. Third thing? Yeah.
I'm here because we think alike. I want everybody to think this way.
Yeah, Cindy?
Well, I've heard you talk about the more beautiful world, and it really resonated with me, for years. And I've made a lot of changes to move into that state. But, as I look around, like you said, the education system, the banking system, the food system, all of these systems are wrong. They're all wrong. And I'm wanting to know, how is this going to change? It's going to require such a massive change. And even if a group of us change, well, how is that going to help the people fighting in the Middle East, who all they want to do is kill each other? I just don't know how this is going to come about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yep, one more. Yeah.
I think my friend is a dude who kind of started sharing it, and when I watched the video, at first I was like, okay, cool, somebody is interested, and that's cool. But what interested me is when you started talking about some of the ideas you had. And I guess I've surrounded people who have opinions about things and express ideas, but there's often not much talk about things that can be done. And so I think when I listened to what you were saying about what could be done and how kind of briefly how it could be applied, it just seemed a little bit different. So I was curious about the actual implication of some of the ideas and how realistic that might be.
Yeah. All right. So for one thing, we look at the problems in the world, and they seem impossible to solve. Like, you can, because everything's so frozen into place, and the powers that be are so powerful and so entrenched. And how, even if, how are we going to overcome the military-industrial complex, the surveillance state, the mass media, all of the banking system, all of these powerful systems? Maybe if everybody agreed with me and rose up, then maybe we could overcome these entrenched powers. But how is that going to happen when everybody's in the grip of the mass media propaganda machine and seemingly very comfortable or complacent in where they are? Like, what plan could I come up with that's going to realistically change the system in time to avert environmental catastrophe? It's totally unrealistic. You have to expect a miracle. No plan. We can sit around and say, okay, we've got to come up with a plan. We've got to change many people's minds. It's going to take a media campaign, and that's going to require a lot of money. So how are we going to raise the money? Well, we've got to send out some fundraising letters. We've got to solicit rich people. And in order to really change things, we have to reach the people in power. We have to have lobbying. We have to manipulate the levers of power in order to make big systems change really fast. Change the minds of the corporate executives. And we've been trying that for decades now, and it hasn't worked. In fact, things are getting worse. So according to what we understand as possible, according to our understanding of causality in this world, it's impossible. And I think we have to face that. However, our understanding of causality, our understanding of how change happens in the world is very, very limited. It's based on the same, I'm going to call it the old story, the same old story that all of the crises are coming from too. And that old story says that your power to change the world ultimately comes down to force. That's in Newtonian physics. And our